Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Mic is now recording.
What is up, guys? Welcome to First Cut. This is our review of Season 2 of Legend of Korra. It's more of a discussion, but obviously I'm here with Cade Huseby. What is up, man?
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me on today. I am so excited to talk about one of my favorite shows of all time and one of my favorite seasons within that show, Season 2.
Exactly, man. And I'm so excited to have you on. Obviously, rewatching Korra has been an amazing experience. I'm currently on Season 4 right now, so I'm almost there. I'm almost done with it. Season 4 is incredible as well. But Season 2 was a lot of fun to rewatch as well. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But let's start with the elephant in the room, man. This is the season that most people do not care for. Even to this day, I saw some comments and some tweets about people being like, oh yeah, Season 2 is still trash or Season 2 still sucks.
Come on.
Right? I feel like Legend of Korra Seasons 1 through 4 are all different and they're all good in their own way. And I feel like Season 2 is a part of that. Obviously, the villain isn't necessarily as incredible as maybe a Kuvira or as a Zahir with the Red Lotus. Right. But I don't feel like that's necessarily the point of Season 2. The point isn't necessarily the villain itself and how Korra is facing down with that. I think it's more Korra internally. But talk to me about Season 2, a retrospect of it, because obviously we saw it a while back when it first premiered. But now looking back at it, how does Season 2 hold up now?
Well, so obviously I was a big Avatar: The Last Airbender fan when it first came out, and when Korra came out, like you said in your first recap episode, it sort of flew under the radar for a lot of people. I guess just because of programming and promotion and stuff. And I never really got into it when it first came out, but when Avatar: The Last Airbender came on Netflix, and I rewatched that season, that series again, and I fell in love with that again. I was really wanting more Avatar content, and I was like, oh my God, Korra, right? Like, I gotta just watch Korra. So, around the time that Avatar got on Netflix, I watched the entire series of Legend of Korra in probably like 3 weeks. It was kind of like my thing for a while. And I got really into the entire story. But going into how it holds up now, I think that now that all of the content is out for, the animated series and we have it all together, I think that Season 2 is actually really crucial and significant to the entire Avatar story, starting with Aang and everything, because we really get a peek into, not even a peek, an entire season into how the Avatar operates and what the Avatar means. And it comes at a time in Korra's life when she feels really confident in like every aspect of her life except for Spirit, and she's sort of been ignoring Spirit, sort of thinking of it as something that's inherent, something to sort of take for granted. And the season starts out with her activating Rava just to win a game against Genora. And so over the season, you literally see her starting out from just using the Avatar state as like a fun little gag to like fully transforming, understanding Spirit, and just sort of really understanding what it means to be the Avatar, which she was struggling with at the beginning of Season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We see a change inside of Korra, and obviously this is the season that I feel like for the most part people didn't like Korra, if that's a fair way to put it, because of her almost abrasiveness, her headstrongness, her idea of going with Unalaq instead of Tenzin, her whole relationship with Mako, her moodiness. But to me, I felt like that's just being a person. A person is flawed. A person goes through all these emotions, and she's a very emotional person. And I feel like that's Korra's character within itself. So we're following along with her flaws and her realizing that she's wrong, because obviously by the end of Season 2, we see her realize her mistakes And we see her take a little bit from Unalaq as well, which is this whole idea of balance that obviously we get into season 4 a little bit more, but the idea not just balance with politics that we see in season 4, but balance with your spirituality and with the cosmic power of the world, like Tenzin talks about in the final episode, of the idea of, yes, spirits are important, and yes, they should be a part of our culture, but they shouldn't dominate our culture like Unalaq wants it to. He wants the 10,000 years of darkness and the spirits to take over, almost like a reckoning, or almost like a punishment to humanity for ignoring the spirits and for abusing the spirits. So in a way, you could see his point of view, but you see that extremism that Korra, the show, talks about, and how it's never a good way to do just the complete extreme of either side. So it's a learning experience for her, and I think that's
Absolutely.
the point of season 2.
Yeah, and I think that, Korra as a person, I think a lot of her identity is wrapped up in being the Avatar and not wanting to disappoint people or let people down. And I think also there's sort of this subliminal part of it that's like, they know all about Aang's stories and the first gang stories, and it's sort of like this hype to live up to. I feel like that she's internalizing. And so when she turns to Tenzin, she turns to Tonrak, her dad, and neither of them know this crucial part about being the Avatar, which is, connecting with Rava, connecting with spirit. And so it's kind of like Unalaq's perfect storm/timing to like swoop in and take advantage of how much she wants to learn, versus like him basically having all of the knowledge. And I remember, like, it might have been the second episode where they're walking down to the South Pole and he's like, "You're going to open a spirit portal," and she's like, "What?" Like, that seems kind of intense. And I think Unalaq is such a great villain because he is her uncle. And this is the only villain that we get in the entire series that's a family member, which I think is a very overarching theme of this entire season, is family dynamics between Tenzin and his siblings and the southern and northern water tribes. Like, the episodes are even labeled Civil War, episode 3, episode 4. And I think what makes Unalaq such a great villain is like there's a part about being in a family where you feel like you can just trust people automatically, and that plus her deep desire to learn about spirit is just sort of like, for the first half of the season, it's like she really thinks she's doing the right thing, and that's sort of what you were talking about with her internal struggle. Like, she sort of over this season realizes that she kind of has to make up her own mind and try to think for herself a little bit more.
Yeah, it's like a trial by fire kind of situation where she's making choices and then realizing those choices don't work out by getting burned by those choices. Yeah, I totally see that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the entire massive lore drop that is in season 2. We get not only like backstory of Korra and her family with Tonrak, her father, which she's an amazing character as well, and Unalaq, and we get a little bit of backstory as far as him being the chief of the Northern Water Tribe, going back down to the Southern Water Tribe, meeting his wife, and obviously we get Korra. We get Unalaq, his backstory as far as being in touch with the spirits, a very religious figure. But we also get, and I feel like this is where we should start, the backstory of the entire universe of the Avatar world, with the Lion Turtles and Avatar 1 and the spirit world. This is so much lore drop. It's incredible. And obviously it's the 2 Wan episodes. I forget the name of the episodes. Let me pull them up right now. Beginnings.
Beginnings part 1 and 2, yeah.
Beginnings part 1 and 2, which is all just basically a 2-parter, a 1 long episode, is mind-blowingly beautiful. The art is amazing. The story is amazing. The acting is amazing. Obviously, shout out to Stephen Yen, who does the voice for that, Avatar 1. Talk to me about those episodes, because those episodes mean a lot to Avatar fans, to Korra
Yes.
fans, to just anyone who's related to the Avatar world.
Yeah, those episodes are, well, let me start off by saying this season I think has some of my favorite episodes. Like, I think this season has the most of my favorite episodes in the series. A lot of my favorites are in other seasons, but I think this one holds the most, and two of them being Beginnings Part 1 and 2, because it's sort of, it's really cool to have so many questions answered in two episodes, because this series sort of leaves the questioning of bending at the door, and it asks you to suspend your disbelief, and that's what makes this show so cool. And seeing how it all started out and getting the mythology of that is so important to me, at least. It kind of helps me engage with the content more, and think about things and go back and reference, and how thinking about all the shared personality traits that Juan has with Aang and Korra, and seeing that seeing the whole lion turtle story, and how he gained all of these elements by being an independent thinker, and by having this deep desire to master the elements. It's so cool to have them switch up the animation style, and I think Juan is just such a likable character too, that I would love to even see like a whole series with him. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because Juan essentially starts out by getting his powers by being disobedient. Rewatching the two episodes, that's the first thing that stood out to me. I was like, man, this guy is the Avatar because he broke the rules, and by getting more, by not returning the element of fire back to the lion turtle, number one, and then obviously going to different cities to get the different elements and just keep them all. That's the secondary option, but the idea of the Avatar being the Avatar because he broke the rules and he went against the system is something that's very interesting to me. And then obviously the idea of him releasing Vaatu into the world and separating Raba from Vaatu, like you can even consider that the first sin. This horrible act of destruction against the entire humanity, that he has to now carry the load of it as the Avatar, which he does to his very last breath, obviously, as we see him pass away and Rava goes to another person. It's really interesting, that whole dynamic of Juan's personality connected to Juan's power and his relationship with Rava.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Rava, I think, was just trying to hitch a ride at first. And I think that she sort of realized that, like, kind of what Korra realized at the end of season 2, which is like spirits and humans can actually like sort of create a better world. And the word itself, avatar, is like basically in reference to Rava, like whoever's body she's inhabiting is an avatar for her. And I think that the battle between Rava and Vaatu sort of, I think this season sort of lays on the morality, like very straightforward, with the two characters embodying good and evil. And I think that this season as a whole really breaks down what Avatar, the whole series, the whole world is about, which is, fighting good and evil. And it's just cool because, even though Vaatu sort of never, reaches his full power after the end of season 2, Korra defeats him. It's like, in a way, all of the other villains in the series are just an embodiment of Vaatu, in the chaotic energy that he holds so dear to his heart.
Yeah, it really is interesting because, again, I go back to the idea of Vaatu being so in touch with the spirits that we even get that incredible. We have to talk about the spirit world, obviously. Let's go straight there. When Genora and Korra go to the spirit world, we get Wong Fu's. I believe it's Wong Fu's library,
Yeah.
And one of the most incredible moments of that scene to me was that Wong Fu is actually friends with Unalaq, and he considers him
Yeah.
to be a friend with the spirits. And it's that idea that Unalaq has now refused his humanity, and he's almost considered himself more to be a part of the spirit world than necessarily the human world. To the point that obviously he wants harmonic convergence for that reason. Which is an incredible idea within itself. But it's that idea of the spirit world being something distant and unique. What do you think of seeing the spirit world for the first time? Because I don't think we ever saw that in the original Avatar. I think this is the first time we actually visually see it.
Yeah, I remember in the original Avatar, the spirit world was sort of this like gray, dark palette, wispy, sort of ghosty place, but it wasn't fully explored until I think Korra. But yeah, I think they nailed the spirit world in this season. One of my favorite parts about the spirit world is when we get to see Iroh, and he's interacting with baby Korra, and he's explaining to her it's really how you see the spirit world is how the spirit world presents itself to you. You know, if you act out of fear, if you act out of love, that's what the spirit world will give you. And I think that was such a powerful message. Again, Iroh dropping the wisdom bombs, the truth bombs, because I think that really does apply to real life too, reality being something that is constructed inside of our brains and something that's very much impacted by our outlook. And I think that's something that Korra really needed to hear at that moment, because it was really easy to lose hope when it seemed like Vatu and Unalaq were going to just totally win, and she was feeling super defeated. And then, with Genora also being in the spirit world, I think Genora is such an important part of book 2. She sort of. I wanted to ask you about this. Genora is almost like a spirit bender, and is that something that you think is the case, or what do you think is going on with Genora?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I don't think that's ever necessarily clarified or explored. In season 3, she says it's an advanced airbending technique mixed with a little spiritual stuff. I think that's how she describes it to Kai. She's like, oh, it's an advanced airbending technique mixed with a little bit of spiritual magic or spiritual mojo.
Almost like what Unalaq was doing with the
Exactly, with the water bending mixed with spirit powers or spirit being tapped into the spirit world a little bit more, and that's what Genora is. I love that Genora is that extension of Aang, where Tenzin is the airbending master and Genora is essentially like the spiritual side of Aang, where they're both a part of the same bloodline, but she's the one who's more in touch with the spirit world than Tenzin ever was or ever will be.
Yeah, I remember
a combination of both.
I remember Boomi saying like to Tenzin like, we'll let you know if we need to go to Tenzin world, like, because he kept failing at getting into the spirit world. Yeah, I mean, speaking of Boomi, like, Boomi is one of many characters this season that, I think make this series so much more entertaining. Like, we get Boomi, we get Desna and Eska, Varric and Julie.
Kaya, I love Kaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many amazing characters we get this season. Yeah, that's a great point. Obviously, we get more of Genora, which I feel is great because we see her not just be a goofy little girl like in season 1. We get to see her kind of grow up and realize that she's tapped into that spiritual side. But yeah, I think it's an advanced like airbending mixed with spiritual power.
Yeah. So.
Oh, go ahead.
What do you think about the spirit world? Like how they portrayed it and everything?
Oh yeah, I love the whole positive energy, negative energy aspect of the whole thing that you were talking about. I think that's a really cool idea. I love the idea too that it's almost like an afterlife because we see Iroh there, and it's almost like I have a million questions. Obviously, I immediately go to like, did he choose to leave his body? Like, how soon? Like, did he choose to leave his body? Was there like a funeral for him? Like, there's so many interesting, weird questions about the idea of an afterlife and about basically, I go straight to Star Wars, right? With like Force ghostness, where you are basically an immortal being, but you're not corporeal. so you don't have a body, but you're still immortal, kind of, and you can still pass on wisdom and communicate. It's very Star Warsy in that way. Yeah, I loved it, man. I thought it was really cool, and I love the idea. And I know I'm jumping around a lot, but the idea in the finale of Korra spirit bending, energy bending. I'm sorry, energy bending in a different way that we saw Avatar Aang do. Instead of tapping into someone's energy and taking away their bending, she's tapping into her own energy, amplifying that, and literally creating a kaiju of herself, like a giant being of just pure energy. And it's her own actual energy, which is something that's so ancient that even the lion turtles are like, bro, that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the lion turtles were talking about how that's just some really old school power stuff. And it really has to do with being tapped into the cosmic energy of the universe and being tapped into yourself. It's that combination of both, again, which is a theme in Avatar and in Korra. What did you think of that? Because to me, that was just mic drop moment, just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at first I was like a little, I wasn't like super, enthusiastic about it. I felt like it was sort of the only route that the story could go at that point, to match the energy of Batu. But I think I only feel that way because it's something new. But it's really cool to see her, becoming that becoming that independent, to the point where she can actually manifest that much power. And what I love about that final battle scene is that she uses Unalaq's technique against him, the one that he's been, bragging about and showing off and using to control the world, the spirit melding sort of thing. She uses that against him, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's a really cool finale. It's different. It's something that's literally life and death, eternal humanity at stake. Like everything is at stake in that finale versus maybe other finales, which is still a lot at stake. But this one is like literally end of the universe type stuff, which I thought was very interesting. From there, they kind of take it a little bit more down, which I think is really cool in seasons 3 and 4. But they wanted to bring it all the way up in season 2 and then work their way down to a little bit more detailed subjects in seasons 3 and 4 than necessarily enormous subjects of like good and evil, which is, again, the genius of Korra in the way they're able to balance out stories. But speaking of stories, we get a lot of B stories, a lot of side stories with a lot of side characters. Obviously, we got Mako and his little cop investigation thing versus Varric. We get Bolin in the movers and trying to use his influence on people. We got Tenzin and his brothers and sister Kaya, which it's probably my favorite. But I want to ask, what's your favorite little side story?
I really love when they go to the Southern Air Temple, and sort of seeing how much it's flourished since the first series. And I love, again, a big reason I first got into the show was because I was looking for more Avatar: The Last Airbender content. And so, when there's scenes with like all of Aang's kids and Aang's grandkids, and sort of seeing his legacy that he's created, and seeing all those like cool things that call back to the first season was really cool for me. And I thought that it was a really good way of like developing Tenzin's and Boomi's and I forget their sister's name, but sort of, developing like their characters and showing how, because Tenzin was the only airbender in the family, that he had like so much more attention than them. And that's just like, again, like going back to the family dynamic thing. It's like, you'd think in this mystical world where like people can bend and they can do all sorts of crazy things, that things like that might seem a little less pronounced, but it's actually just as important, is like you know, how they were raised. And Aang is just a person too. He's not perfect. He's flawed. And as a parent, he seemed like he was very flawed. And that was kind of interesting to see. And I really enjoyed Tenzin's journey throughout this too, like you said.
Yeah, that's my thing. I want to jump to our favorite moments of the season. Obviously, we're getting down to the end of this episode here, but one of my favorite moments of the season, and it's a moment that actually legit rewatching it almost brought me to tears, and I was like, "Don't you dare!" It's the moment where Tenzin is in the fog of lost souls, and he keeps telling himself, he's like, "I'm the extension of Aang. I am Aang's son. I am Aang's son." And then Aang comes up to him and he sees his father in the spirit world, and he says, "No, you're not. You're never gonna be me. You're a different person. You're your own person. You're Tenzin. You're an airbender." And then he starts yelling to himself, "I'm Tenzin. I am Tenzin." And I was like, dude, this is so amazing. It's emotional. And he's able to clear out all the fog and literally fight against the spirit, because the fog is an actual spirit, and find his brothers and sisters and his family. And save his family essentially in that scene. Oh man, I love that scene. It really is one of the most emotional scenes in all of Korra.
That
and it
scene
makes
is incredible.
Yeah, and it makes Tenzin an even better character than he already was. I think Tenzin's one of the best characters in any show. I think he's that good. But yeah, the idea of being Avatar's son, and yes, getting more attention, but also getting more pressure than your other brothers and sisters is really interesting to me. But what's another one of your favorite moments of the season?
One of my favorite moments of the season is when remind me of Tenzin's son's name. Milo. When they're at the Southern Air Temple and Milo finds his little air lemur, and he's like, and Tenzin's trying to teach him to become a master trainer, and then Milo ends up like training an entire fleet, and like Tenzin's like, "I've created a monster," and I just think that was just such a fun scene.
There's a lot of fun scenes, man. The Bolin movers are hysterical. I would watch that show. What is it called? The Adventures of not Unalaq, Tunrock.
Yeah, Tanrak. Yeah.
Or Nuttuck? Nuttuck.
Nuktuk. Yeah, Tanrak is Korra's dad.
I'm sorry, Nuktuk. The Adventures of Nuktuk. That's one of my favorite. I love every single one of those movers. I think they're hysterical. I love that Pabu and Naga have like recurring roles in it. And I love the finale of it when they're at the pro bending arena and he's fighting along and it's mirroring everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's like 4D cinema.
Yep, exactly. And it's like a play that's going on at the same time. I think that's super funny.
Yeah, the movers and Varric. I think Varric and Bolin are like so necessary to the show in this season, because this season is so heavy, and Varric and Bolin are like, their comedic relief is like unmatched. Like the character of Julie and like Julie's dynamic with Varric is like honestly one of my favorite relationships in the whole canon. Like just because like, especially how it keeps coming back. Like I think in season 4, like Julie saves the world or something like ridiculous like that. But a lot of his moments are really fun for me. But I think like another one of my favorite moments in the show, besides Avatar 1 story, would be the battle the battle of the harmonic convergence, which is like when they're all going to give reinforcements to the Southern Water Tribe, and Bolin's like holding onto the side of the plane, like and then Boomi saves the day by getting in one of these machines and just accidentally wrecking the entire camp. Like that was such a fun moment for me.
And the fact that it's like an actual like recurring thing where he's like, "I once did this crazy thing and saved an entire battalion," and everyone's like, "Shut up, dude. We know you're lying," but it's actually probably all true after that. That's amazing.
And then when he plays the flute for the evil spirit and the evil spirit starts dancing, like what a vibe.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. I mean, if anything's gonna save the world, it's music, right?
And then sorry, just one more moment I want to highlight when Korra finally attacks Unalaq. I just thought that was so fire. Like, no pun intended.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's so many amazing moments. Obviously, we have one of my favorite fight scenes. I think one of the best fight scenes. Every fight scene we get in Korra are usually like super high energy and super hype, but very short. But those short like 30 seconds are like the most hype 30 seconds. And it's Tonrock versus Unalaq. I think that's an underrated one-on-one fight that I was like, yo, like this guy was like sliding and then he turned to water and then he like made like a water spear and like tried to punch him, and I was like, this is insane. It's so much.
Yeah, the fight scenes, I want to say choreography, but it's really more about how they use the elements. Like, I think they use the elements so creatively in this season in ways that are so practical and ways that like you're like, oh, that's so smart. Like, you know, I would have totally used my water bending like that too, or like, and I think they explore a lot more of the bending. Obviously, they go back to blood bending in season 1, and we get to see a lot more air bending in this series, which is fun. And I just think that like, yeah, I think the way that they, you know, like how you're talking about Unalaq versus his brother, you know, they were freezing each other in ice, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and those fight scenes are so worth it because like they just get so creative with it.
Yeah, and obviously, you talked about Varric. We got to give a shout out to some of Varric's best scenes. One of my favorites is when Bolin is like, is this ship capable of outrunning your crazy psycho ex-girlfriend? And he's like, why do you think I built this thing? And then he just like goes all the way out. Like, that's a funny line. That, and then the when they make it past the Northern Water Tribe blockade, and the guy gets a little telescope, and it's Bolin with a platypus bear, because it's Varric inside the platypus bear. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, we did it. And he like gives like a double high five to the platypus bear. And the guy's like, sir, you're never going to believe this. As if the platypus bear just like escaped on a speedboat and he's just driving away.
And the platypus bear pooping money too.
Oh yeah.
I think that was
so funny.
One of my favorite Varric moments is when he's like, I need to brainstorm, so he eats peppers and hangs himself upside down on his feet. And I think about that at least once a week. Yeah,
that, and then when he's like, he named his ship the Julie, and he's like, they're both, yeah, but he was like, they're both psycho killing machines. Why else would I name it like that? Which is a reference, obviously, we get to season 4 when we see that she is like a crazy killing machine. But yeah, I love season 2. I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely different than seasons 3 and 4. It's definitely different than even season 1. I think it's a little bit more, you get a lot of expansive stories. You get a villain with a very clear-cut purpose, not necessarily a ton of nuance like a Zahir or like a Kuvira or even like an Amon, because I think Amon is underrated. But at the same time, I think that's what we needed for Korra's story in order for her to grow as a character.
Yeah, I think that Amon is like, I think that Amon is a more, I guess, commercially intriguing villain. I think that Unalaq is like the book itself says, like a spirit, like a spiritual villain. Like, you know, it's really toying with her insides, her you know, toying with her morality and her family and who she can trust. And you know, I think that people who are using Korra like Unalaq, you know, always sort of do it in an external way, and you know, the way he did it in an internal mental way was really crazy. And I think what I like so much about Unalaq as a villain is that he's the first villain we see that's like trying to become the Avatar instead of trying to destroy or capture the Avatar. And so that was really cool for me to see, you know, sort of the good cannot exist without the evil, and he sort of like embodies that. And yeah, I think the family dynamics is what really makes it interesting for me.
Yeah, I really do feel like season 2 is definitely underrated for sure. Alrighty, Cade. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, man. I really do appreciate having you here. It's good to have another person who's not only a Korra fan, but a season 2 fan, which is like a whole different level.
Yeah.
It's like liking the prequels or like the sequels for Star Wars now. Like,
oh, come on, it's not that bad.
Okay, fine, it's not that bad, but still. If Korra was as big as Star Wars, it would be.
I think. I'm curious to hear your opinion on this. What do you think people like? What do you think isn't resonating with people
about season 2?
Yeah.
I think it's Unalaq, if I'm being honest. I think they saw Amon and they saw how dynamic he was and how interesting he was and how he was almost like Magneto type, which Magneto is one of the best villains ever created in fiction, in my opinion. Then they followed this up with Unalaq, that they felt like, oh, this guy's like that, like he is in the movies, right? Where he's goofy. He's like, I will destroy the world in harmonic convergence. Like, they felt like it was too, like, one note, I'm just here to blow shit up, versus being dynamic and layered and complex, like a Zahir, for example, we get in season 3, or like a Kuvira we get in season 4. Very complex, not just good and evil. I mean, Zahir's very nice at some moments, actually. You could see a lot of his points, and you could see a lot of Amon's points. Yeah, Zahir and Amon, and even Kuvir, kind of. You can see their points besides Unalaq, where he just wants darkness for 10,000 years, and he's like, all right, darkness for 10,000 years is a lot. But he sees that as like, yeah, exactly. But he sees that as like balance, right? To him, 10,000 years of darkness is like, this is the way we got to do this, bro, because we did all that 10,000 years of other stuff, so we got to pay retribution for all that crap we did. This is our penance. This is basically what we have to live through for ignoring the spirits for so long. But yeah, again, obviously he's wrong, and obviously Korra wins. But yeah, guys, that is our thoughts on seasons 2 of Korra. Cade, where can everyone find you, man?
Hey guys, you can find me on. I'm most active on Instagram at Cade Huseby. I post stories a lot, and I have a show here on First Cut, Netflix Roulette, which comes out every Tuesday. Me and a guest randomly find the most random content on Netflix and watch it and review it, and let you know if you should watch it. This most recent episode was with Sabrina from First Cut, and we landed on the Cat in the Hat. So that's an interesting and fun discussion. Check us out there, and I'm also on Twitter. Me and RB3 have a movie coming out pretty soon, so keep an eye out for Timestamp. You can follow Timestamp Movie on Instagram for updates and behind the scenes stuff there. And of course, check out all of First Cut's reviews and discussions. I really enjoyed RB3's new vlog when he went to Las Vegas to watch Tenet. That was a really entertaining vlog. So just spend your whole day on First Cut is basically what I'm trying to get to. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And obviously go check out Netflix Roulette. It's a lot of fun. I've been on there. You've had a lot of other cool guests on there too, so it's definitely something that you can go back and watch the playlist of it, if we have a playlist of it, and just check it out. Enjoy your day with First Cut, like Cade said. Obviously, you can find me at Squad Leader Race, and you can find us here at First Cut. We're going to be going through seasons 3 and 4, so make sure you guys tune in for that. For the First Cut crew, I am Andres.
Cade.
We are peacing out. Peace out, guys.